Some puzzles are easy to figure out, like for example, who spray painted "Mike loves cars" onto the wall of our studio.
That could have been anyone!
If you want to see some puzzles that absolutely aren't easy to solve, then video games are the place to look, because there have been some real doozies over the years, puzzles so impossibly hard that we cannot fathom how anyone was able to figure them out without a walkthrough. Although I guess somebody did, because who wrote the walkthrough? Oh no, another puzzle. Quick, let's start the list, and folks, do beware spoilers for the following games.
Tunic is an isometric adventure game that tells the story of a young fox out to unravel an ancient mystery, and then presumably attend a Link from Zelda cosplay convention. One of the core gameplay mechanics in Tunic is the game's manual, which you can access in the game and which is written in an incomprehensible language. As you travel through the game, you discover pages of this manual, which reveal game mechanics and secrets that had always been there, you just didn't know how to do them because you didn't have the manual. You can, like us, achieve the same effect in modern games by impatiently skipping the tutorial. Works every time. The game's final puzzle, which you need to solve to open a mysterious mountain door, is notorious among Tunic fans as being by far the hardest puzzle in the game. Many claim to have figured it out on their own, and the sense of satisfaction that comes from that does appear to be worth the preposterously difficult process it takes to get there. But if you want to see how it's done without figuring it out yourself, then watch on. The puzzle starts when you discover page 49 of the manual, which at first glance seems to be a meaningless grid of numbers with a stumped-looking fox sat next to it, wondering how the hell he's supposed to open the door behind him. You and me both, buddy. The secret to this grid lies on page 22 of the manual, which shows this image, which it turns out is supposed to clue you into the fact that the numbered spaces on the golden grid correspond with a page number in the game's manual. Now you have to discover what the game calls the golden path, by starting on page 12 and finding the yellow lines hidden on each numbered page, which will map out the route you need to take to open the mountain door. Some of these lines are straightforward, others are hidden behind text box outs, some are struck through, meaning to ignore part of them, and one is even provided by a virtual coffee stain on a virtual page of the manual. The clue that is wildest, most difficult, and hardest to stumble across by accident, however, is the one that should correspond to page 9 of the manual. Try as you might, you won't find a golden line on this page. However, you will see the little fox guy looking at the game's save files, confused. You and me both, buddy. What you need to do, and if you did figure this out on your own, please tell me how you managed it, is to be on page 9, quit the game, select load game, select cancel, and then select load game again, and there will now be a new save file which has appeared out of nowhere. It has 1,000 hours of playtime and over 500 million gold, and loading it drops you into a maze with the golden path drawn out on the floor. Find all of the yellow lines, and all you have to do then is convert the directions into directional presses and then stand in front of the mountain door and enter the 100 press combination. Your reward for all this? The front cover of the instruction manual. Oh hey, turns out the game was called Tunic, everyone. Didn't we know that already?
You know what you don't see anymore in this modern world with all its computers and internets and fax modems? Forest gnomes stopping you on the path and asking you to guess their name. Yes, it's a lost remnant of a simpler time, but maybe that's for the best, because some of these little bastards are absolutely not playing fair. Take for example the gnome you encounter in 1980's puzzle adventure King's Quest. To even get to this chin-bearded jabroni, you need to get past a troll guarding a bridge to his island, which you do of course by befriending a goat and having it murder him. Once on the island, you meet the gnome who says that he has a great gift for you, but only if you can guess his name within 3 tries. The first reason this puzzle is difficult is because it requires you to have prior knowledge of the fairy tale Rumpelstiltskin, in which the same question is posed and to which the answer is the title of the story, Rumpelstiltskin. However, Rumpelstiltskin is not the answer here. But if you were paying attention earlier, you may remember a note you found in an unrelated witch's house which read, "Sometimes it is wise to think backwards." No indication that that was anything to do with this puzzle, but how about Rumpelstiltskin backwards? That's right, his name must be Nick Stlitselpmer. Nope, not that either. In fact, the solution to this puzzle was to reverse the entire alphabet so that whenever you have the letter A, you replace it with a Z, where you have the letter B, you replace it with a Y, and so forth. Using this utterly bonkers cipher, you now get the true answer to the riddle of the gnome's name, Ifenkov Hgrogrprum. Must have been given a hard time at school. To make things worse, Sierra, the creators of the game, had spelled Rumpelstiltskin wrong, swapping the E and the L around, making this extra impossible to figure out. So much so, in fact, that the later remake of the original King's Quest made the correct answer to this puzzle, Nick Stlitselpmer. Rumpelstiltskin backwards, like we said. You know what else is a nice name? Dave. Would save everyone a lot of trouble.
What a nightmare.
For too long, puzzles have been making life inconvenient for the inhabitants of survival horror games. Like the Spencer Mansion staff who need to collect 4 crests to take a smoke break, or the technicians of the Silent Hill crematorium who have to ponder an extensive poem about birds just to get the oven open. Beyond even that, Silent Hill 3 is so committed to putting willfully obtuse puzzles in the way, it allowed you to specifically increase the challenge of those puzzles by setting what it called the riddle level to hard. Are you sure about this? Better you than me. For the players who picked hard mode, there would be a more arcane, more willfully obtuse version of a given puzzle waiting for them, where other, less masochistic players would encounter a more reasonable version. Take the bit where Heather flees a bunch of mall monsters into a bookstore when, in order to reach the locked employee area out back, she needs a 4-digit code. There's a stack of books scattered on the floor that turn out to be the 5 volumes of a Shakespearean anthology, each one containing a different play. You might think that reshelving these tomes would be the key to solving the puzzle, and you'd be completely wrong if you were playing on the hard riddle level. In hard mode, go to the staff room door and you'll find there's an incredibly long and unhelpful memo on the wall written in pseudo-Shakespearean English. Among these 8 terrible verses are 5 that each very vaguely describe the plot of one Shakespeare play, requiring you to firstly decipher the verse and secondly be familiar with each of the Shakespearean tragedies in question, like "Doth lie invite truth? Doth verity but wear the mask of falsehood? Ah, thou pitiful, thou miserable ones." Macbeth, that is, obviously. Once you've identified which play corresponds to which verse number and which numbered anthology book corresponds to that, you'll have a 5-digit code, which is worse than useless because you need a 4-digit code to open the door. So now what you want to do is a bunch of maths according to the penultimate verse of that Shakespeare fanfiction, which goes, "One vengeful man spilled blood for 2, 2 youths shed tears for 3, 3 witches disappeared thusly, and only the 4 keys remain. Multiply Hamlet by 2, Romeo and Juliet by 3, and stick Macbeth in the bin, obviously." Now you've got a 4-digit number that is the correct code for the keypad, and thank God for that. Or rather, thank Google for that, which told you the code was 8352, with none of that nonsense.
Hey, wait, what's going on? Where is everybody?
In normal puzzle mode, on the other hand, someone has simply defaced the spines of these precious books with a randomised key code. So, arrange them on the shelf in the right order, and job's a good 'un. Either way, I think we can agree this bookshop is a weird and inconvenient place to work, especially if you forget the code to the staff room, particularly because all your co-workers seem to be Shakespeare-loving tryhards. You should have seen the soliloquy that Jerry left on the fridge after someone ate his sandwich.
Fez is a puzzle platformer about a little guy who lives in a 2D world, but discovers that there's a secret, wonderful extra dimension that until now had been hidden from him. sort of the same way I felt when I discovered salted caramel. On the surface, Fairs is about finding and collecting 32 golden cubes to repair the universe. What you'll discover though is that there is a second layer of more complex puzzles which rewards you with anti-cubes. What you might not know is that additionally there are 3 red cubes in the game which are rewarded for solving puzzles so fabulously esoteric that they make a cryptic crossword look like a regular crossword. Yeah, I know. Take the telescope room puzzle, which requires you to look through the telescope at 2 red stars, convert the pattern of their flashing into binary, then separate that binary into bytes, then convert that to hexadecimal, then convert that hexadecimal into ASCII, at which point it would reveal a series of button presses that when entered on your controller, revealed the cube. Amazingly, that's not even the most difficult puzzle in the game. There's one that the community banded together to solve, and even now, they're not quite sure how they solved it. It's nicknamed the Black Monolith puzzle, because it's a clear reference to the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey in that a black monolith appears, and also everyone who tried to unlock its secrets felt like a stupid Neanderthal monkey man scratching around in the dirt. The puzzle involved using the first-person mode to stand on a particular spot, marked by a half-burnt treasure map, and then deciphering a coded language in order to enter the button sequence written in code on that treasure map. This caused the monolith to appear. The community then guessed that you need to stand on a second specific spot and enter a second code, but with no clue as to how to find it, they decided to brute force the combination, banding together to try 66,227 different sequences of button presses, until purely by chance they happened upon the right one. And they still don't know for sure how they were supposed to arrive at this code. One of life's great mysteries. Just like we'll never know for sure who first decided that caramel would be better if it was salty.
It was French chocolatier Henry Leroux.
One of life's great mysteries.
Thank God you've returned. I need your help. There's a great deal of history that you should know, but I'm afraid that I must continue my writing. Here. Most of what you'll need to know is in there. Keep it well hidden.
Riven was the sequel to Myst, which for many years was the best-selling PC game of all time. It was following the success of Myst that its developers entered a Brewster's Millions-style pact to lose all their money as quickly as possible, which is why they put out their next game, Riven. Or at least that must be what happened, because even though it reviewed and sold well at the time, Riven is monumentally difficult enough to be off-putting, and the franchise never quite hit the same heights again. That was thanks to puzzles like, oh god, the marble puzzle, in which you are presented with a 25 by 25 grid and 6 coloured marbles, and you need to put 5 marbles into the correct holes, leaving 1 out. To figure out what marbles to put where, you first have to realise that the slightly darker lines on the grid represent the shapes of the different islands in the game. You also needed to travel to the islands, find the marble domes on those islands, determine their coordinates, and then stop the dome spinning so you can note a symbol that appears, and then translate that symbol into a colour using clues found in a completely different part of the game. All that sounds bad enough, but you actually can't reach one of the 5 islands until you've solved the puzzle, so the final marble you're just gonna have to guess the colour of. It's brutally difficult and very confusing, so much so that you might just start placing marbles at random. But bear in mind that there are over 58 quadrillion possibilities, so it's going to take some time. Or maybe you could just look up a walkthrough.
You have inherited the frenzied flame. A pity. You are no longer fit. Our journey together ends here.
Elden Ring takes everything the Soulsborne series is known for and dials it up to 1,000,000. More ludicrous weapons, bigger bosses, and more inscrutable moon logic BS than ever before. But for real Premier League FromSoft nonsense, nothing beats the puzzle that is how to subdue the Frenzied Flame. For those who don't know, the Frenzied Flame is the evil force that goes inside you if you happen to come across and be gripped by the 3 fingers, a terrifying embodiment of malevolent chaos that resides behind a door that only opens if you take your clothes off. So already, a good start. It's not clear what awaits players behind this ominous door, and even less clear that if you do walk through it, your playthrough, likely dozens of hours long at this point, is almost irrevocably locked off from any ending except one. That's the ending that looks like this. Gonna go ahead and call that the bad ending. You could easily blunder into the Three Fingers not really knowing what the consequences would be, so in an uncharacteristically forgiving mood, From Software added an item, Michaela's Needle, that cures the Frenzied Flame once you have it, so that you can escape that apocalyptic ending and get one of the nicer endings instead. But in a totally characteristic move, that item is sarcastically complex to acquire, so much so that the odds of you finding it by yourself are almost zero. All you have to do is beat this boss, who drops an unalloyed gold needle, then find a man who wants you to give it to this woman, Millicent, who then teleports around the map to several easy-to-miss locations, and then to talk to her until she asks you to go get her a robot arm, then go get the robot arm. After that, it's really just a case of beating this boss and talking to Millicent in several more locations, and after that you just have to find her summon sign in the depths of the game's most difficult optional area, which appears when this mini-boss is defeated, and after that it's a simple case of just being summoned in to help her kill her 4 sisters. After that, you just need to take the unalloyed gold needle back from her before she dies, and after that, you just need to defeat the hardest boss in the game, and when you've done that, you just need to reload the area, and a big flower will now be there for some reason, and you can use the needle on it to get Michaela's Needle, and then all you have to do is find this hidden trail of rocks in crumbling Farrant, and then simply find the unmarked piece of stonework you can lay down in to get teleported to Dragonlord Placidusax, the second hardest boss in the game, at his throne beyond time, and then, with no prompting, just try using the item, because here and only here can Michaela's Needle be used and the Frenzied Flame cured. Laughably simple, really, when you see it all written down.
Game designer Jonathan Blow, who made puzzle games Braid and The Witness, has built a career on being much cleverer than I am. But if he's so smart, how come he isn't wearing glasses? Touché. The Witness was a bit like Myst and Riven insofar as you wandered around a mysterious island solving puzzles. The difference is, all of these puzzles were variations on mazes of increasing complexity. Each new maze might introduce new rules about how it could be solved, and it was your job to work out those rules and then apply them to solve the puzzle. Ha! Your move, Jonathan Blow. Oh wait, no, there are more puzzles in this game. The addition of rules hit its peak with what's known as the Red Door puzzle, which can be found in a Shipwreck. This puzzle had 3 separate hidden mechanics that you had to work out in order to plot a successful route through the maze. One involved listening out for sounds of the creaking ship and the dripping water in the background. The tone of each of the drips let you know which size of dot you needed to hit in which order. The other thing to consider is that this is a symmetry puzzle, meaning there is also a symmetrical line running from the other starting point that needs to hit the dots in the same order as well. But the extra third wrinkle is that you can't see the symmetrical line, and the only reason you'd know it's there, and that you even need to consider a symmetrical line, is if you had worked out that the in-world red light being cast over the door in the Shipwreck is changing the colour of the puzzle to throw you off. Luckily, there were plenty of people on the internet ready to patiently explain it to baffled players, including me. So you might think you've bested me, genius designer Jonathan Blow, but I simply went on the internet and looked up the answer to every single puzzle in the game I just spent 30 quid on. Game, set, and checkmate. Witness that, motherfucker.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this video about puzzles that were so hard we don't think anyone figured them out on their own. Maybe you did. Tell us in the comments and receive your just kudos. But if you didn't, then as penance, why not watch one of these 2 videos? Up here is one from us, down here is one from Outside Extra. Wait a minute, Jane, holding spray cans. Jane, what are you writing on the wall?
Nothing.
Mike loves car. It was you! The puzzle. We solved it together, friends. Puzzle solving team. Let's go, fist bump.